Introduction. Friends, if you're excited to watch one of the most intense, unpredictable, and absolutely mind-bending shows on the planet, Squid Game Season 3, then make sure to like this video right now. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe because we bring you all the latest updates, exciting facts, and deep dives into your favorite movies and shows. Today's video is dedicated to a show that broke records, blew up the internet, and left fans around the world absolutely stunned. Yes, we're talking about the upcoming Squid Game Season 3. And trust me, if you thought the last two seasons were shocking, this one is about to take things to an entirely different level. In today's video, we'll explore everything you need to know about Squid Game Season 3. From where and when you can watch it, to which OTT platform will have it available in English, we've got you covered. Not only that, we'll dig deep into the show's development process, how the creators came up with the new deadly games, the fresh storylines, the casting decisions, and how the production team pushed the limits of creativity and suspense to make this season even more gripping than before. We'll take a close look at the technical side of things as well. Everything from the camera work and editing to the stunning set designs that bring the dangerous game world to life. I'll tell you about the filming locations, the pre-production challenges, how long the shooting took, and what the post-production process was like. You'll also learn about the team behind a haunting soundtrack and how the music builds the mood, tension, and atmosphere that Squid Game is now famous for. We'll also talk about the show's budget, how it compares to previous seasons, and what kind of expectations are riding on this next chapter. Will it smash records again? Is it heading for another global phenomenon? We'll also discuss box office-like numbers for its digital release, viewer predictions, and how fans are reacting to the teasers and trailers. Of course, I'll walk you through the plot direction without giving away major spoilers, just enough to get you hooked. We'll also talk about the cast, who's returning, which new faces are joining, which actors are playing what roles this time, and how the performances shaped this new season. We'll discuss in detail how each actor brings their character to life, the emotional depth, and the psychological edge that makes this show so unforgettable. And yes, I'll give you a short review of what makes Squid Game Season 3 unique. What new themes are explored? How has the tone shifted? What kind of moral questions and mind games are introduced this time? And why does this season feel darker, bolder, and more thought-provoking than ever before? And as always, we'll wrap it up with some really interesting behind-the-scenes facts. Things most people don't know about the making of this season. The inspiration behind the new games, the symbolism hidden in the story, and what the creators are hinting at for the possible future of the series. So I strongly recommend you stay with us all the way to the end of the video because Squid Game Season 3 is not just a continuation. It's a complete reinvention of survival genre, and you won't want to miss any part of it. Alright friends, let's jump straight into the video. Squid Game Season 3 doesn't begin quietly. It opens with an immediate sense of unease, like a pressure cooker that's been left on high for too long. The narrative wastes no time. It thrusts us right into a world where the events of previous seasons have sent aftershocks through both the characters' lives and the shadowy system behind the games. The story doesn't reset or repeat itself. Instead, it uses the past like a fuse that's already been lit. Things are going to explode and there's no turning back. Rather than focusing on a single point of view like it did in Season 1, this time the show smartly splits the narrative across three major threads. One follows a new group of desperate contestants who find themselves recruited into a version of the game that is darker, more manipulative, and far more twisted than before. These aren't just people who stumbled into the system by accident. Many of them are aware of what they're signing up for, which adds a completely new layer of tension and psychological torment. Every decision they make is haunted by what they think they know, and the games themselves are designed to prey on that knowledge. The second thread follows characters we already know, survivors, rebels, and informants, those who once played the game and made it out, now working behind the scenes to either take the operation down or get revenge. Some are fighting out of guilt, others from trauma, and some simply because they have nothing else left. Their missions pull us into the real-world mechanics of the Squid Game organization, the networks, the recruiters, the offshore locations, and the unfathomable money involved. It shows us just how vast and deeply rooted the operation is, and how hard it is to shake a system that thrives in secrecy and silence. And then there's the third thread, perhaps the most compelling one, centered around the people running the game itself. Season 3 pulls back the curtain further than ever before. We're no longer guessing who's behind the mask. We're now inside their world, watching how they argue over strategy, debate moral boundaries, and try to keep the games evolving in order to stay ahead of leaks and public exposure. Some of them are disturbingly calm, treating death like logistics. Others are conflicted, caught between the promise of power and the pull of their own humanity. This internal tension gives the show a new kind of villain. Not just evil, but nuanced, clever, and even relatable at times. The timeline of the season jumps back and forth, but not aimlessly. It reveals information with surgical precision. A quiet moment in Episode 3 might only make sense when you reach Episode 7, where a flashback recontextualizes everything. These jumps in time aren't just their surprise. They're built to deepen the emotional stakes. Characters are haunted by their past, and the way their memories are folded into narrative adds psychological weight to their choices. One entire episode plays out the fragmented memories of a contestant mid-game, forcing the viewer to piece the truth together while the character is doing the same, often with horrifying consequences. Key turning points hit like hammer blows. One of the earliest shocks is when a contestant is offered a chance to become a game overseer instead of playing. It forces viewers to consider the cost of survival and what people are willing to become to stay alive. Another massive moment comes when a former winner infiltrates the inner circle of the game masters, leading to scenes full of paranoia, double crosses, and tension so thick it practically hums. And then there's a death game that's entirely psychological. No blood, no violence. Just a moral choice that tears friendships apart and leaves no one unchanged. It's quiet, it's cruel, and it's devastating. The narrative is emotionally layered throughout. It explores loneliness, grief, shame, desperation, and the terrifying sense of being powerless in the face of something enormous and invisible. But it's not all despair. There are moments of rebellion, of hope, of characters reaching for connection in the most inhuman of circumstances. The relationships that form, alliances, betrayals, unexpected friendships, aren't just strategic. They're survival mechanisms for the soul. As the season builds toward its climax, the three narrative threads collide in a wild sequence that plays out across different continents, inside the game arena and outside it, with betrayals coming from the least expected places. The final episodes are brutal not just because of what happens, but because of the moral questions they force onto every character and the viewer. Who deserves to live? Who decide that? Can the system be broken, or does it just adapt to every threat? By the time the season ends, the story has pulled you through layers of mystery, violence, and psychological warfare. But more than that, it's created a narrative web so intricate that you realize the game was never just inside the arena. It was everywhere. In power structures, in human nature, in every compromise people make when they're pushed far enough. Season 3 turns a Squid Game into more than a deadly competition. It becomes a war of ideas, a clash between survival and sacrifice, truth and illusion, control and chaos. And through all of it, the story remains gripping, emotional, and relentlessly unpredictable. In Squid Game Season 3, character development isn't just a side dish, it's the main course. This season is built on transformation, and what makes it so incredibly riveting is how it turns survival into a psychological war zone. The characters aren't just struggling with physical exhaustion or clever game mechanics. They're battling guilt, fractured identities, moral compromise, buried memories, and the weight of every decision they've made or failed to make. Each character arc feels like a slow unmasking, peeling back defenses and revealing the person beneath the fear, pride, or desperation. The returning protagonist, now a hardened, haunted version of the person we met in Season 1, undergoes one of the most compelling evolutions. In earlier seasons, they were reacting to the nightmare, navigating the violence while trying to hold on to their sense of right and wrong. But now, they've stepped into a far murkier role. They're not just trying to survive, they're trying to sabotage the system from the inside. This shift forces them into difficult decisions that constantly walk the line between heroism and ruthlessness. They must decide whether to protect new players or use them as tools for a greater purpose. Their internal conflict as they teeter between justice and vengeance add a heavy emotional charge to every scene they're in. They're no longer a pawn. They become something like a rogue piece on the board, dangerous and unpredictable. Season 3 also introduces a completely fresh slate of players. But what's different this time is how carefully and deliberately each one is built. There's no filler. Everyone who enters a game this time arrives with a backstory that either echoes a larger social issue or connects directly to the themes of the show. There's a disillusioned teacher who once tried to expose corruption and lost everything. Now try to use the game to reclaim a sense of purpose. A tech-savvy teenager enters for the thrill of it, believing he can beat the system like a puzzle, only to find that his arrogance becomes his biggest weakness. A middle-aged nurse joins with a quiet, chilling calm, seemingly emotionless, until the games begin poking at the buried grief that made her numb in the first place. Each character is developed through both quiet reflection and explosive conflict. Their motivations are often tangled, complex, and sometimes conflicting even within themselves. Some think they're in it to win money, but it becomes obvious that they're searching for something else entirely: closure, punishment, escape, or meaning. One of the strongest arcs belongs to a former soldier who becomes a reluctant leader inside the game. He starts off with strict discipline, barking orders and trying to organize teams, but slowly crumbles under the weight of decisions where no outcome is truly right. Watching his transformation from soldier to human being again is both painful and powerful. Relationships are more important than ever. The season uses them like traps or lifelines, depending on how they're formed. Two players who appear to be total opposites, a reclusive loner and an overly trusting extrovert, form a close bond that evolves into something resembling family. Their emotional attachment becomes their greatest strength and their ultimate vulnerability. There are moments where characters cling to each other just to remember what being human feels like. But this isn't a feel-good show. Those bonds are often shattered. One of the most gut-wrenching arcs comes from a character who repeatedly sacrifices to protect their friend, only to discover that trust was misplaced. It's not just a betrayal. It's a moment that breaks the audience as much as the character. Season 3 also does something new with antagonistic characters. They aren't simply evil figures in masks anymore. One senior game official, once a loyal architect of the death games, begins to show cracks. His belief in the system starts to erode as he witnesses firsthand the emotional toll of his creation. Through flashbacks, we see a man who was once idealistic, even noble, slowly turn into a puppet of a structure too big to challenge. His arc doesn't lead to redemption or full rebellion, but it leads to hesitation, which in this world can be fatal. That hesitation gives us one of the most unforgettable moments of the season, where a split-second decision changes the entire course of the game. Even the masked workers, once seen as faceless drones, get richer, more dynamic stories this time. A subplot follows a small faction of enforcers who begin to secretly resist the system, moved by what they witnessed. They're terrified, trapped, and constantly monitored, but driven by flickers of conscience. Their journey is quiet, subtle, and full of small, brave choices that accumulate into something powerful. It shows that resistance doesn't always come in loud rebellions. It can also come from tiny acts of defiance in impossible situations. Character growth in this season is never predictable. Some evolve in inspiring ways, discovering strength they didn't know they had. Others regress, breaking down under pressure, revealing the ugly truths they worked so hard to hide. There are characters who start off as heroes and slowly become villains, not out of cruelty but out of survival instinct. Others are seemingly unimportant until a pivotal moment reveals their depth and changes the direction of the story. By the final episodes, it becomes clear that the biggest game being played isn't one of life or death, but one of identity. Who you become when your back is against the wall, when hope is ripped away, when the people around you are equally desperate and broken. Those are the real stakes. Squid Game Season 3 doesn't just ask who wins or loses. It asks who you are when everything else is stripped away. And in answering that, it delivers some of the richest, most unpredictable character development in modern television. The performances in Squid Game Season 3 aren't just good. They're nothing short of transformative, elevating the entire experience into something visceral and unforgettable. This isn't a cast going through the motions or ticking off scripted beats. These actors completely immerse themselves in their roles, bringing such intensity, subtlety, and nuance that you can almost feel the crushing pressure, fear, and desperation radiating off the screen. Every look, gesture, and breath is loaded with meaning, and that's what makes this season's performances stand apart from so many other shows. The returning lead actor is a powerhouse of emotional complexity. This character's arc has shifted dramatically from the first season's desperate survivor to someone hardened by trauma and fueled by a fierce, almost haunted determination. The actor brings a quiet intensity to every scene, rarely overplaying emotions, instead relying on micro-expressions that speak volumes. When they're silent, the camera lingers on their eyes, which seem to carry 1,000 untold stories. There's a beautiful tension in their performance, balancing a steel-cold exterior with cracks of vulnerability that suddenly surface, often in the most unexpected moments. The way they portray internal conflict, whether the moral dilemma, a moment of regret, or a flashback to past trauma, feels completely authentic, almost like we're watching someone genuinely wrestling with their demons in real time. Season 3 also introduces a fresh batch of characters, and the actors playing these new players deliver standout performances that bring a wide range of emotional textures to the series. The former soldier character, for example, could have easily fallen into cliché territory, the stoic, tough guy type, but instead, the actor breathes incredible depth and humanity into the role. His physicality is commanding, but what really makes his performance memorable is the gradual peeling away of his tough exterior. You can see his confidence erode episode by episode, replaced by moments of doubt, exhaustion, and even despair. Key scenes where he's forced to lead others through impossible choices show his emotional collapse as heartbreakingly real, and the actor's subtle shift in tone and body language make it impossible to look away. Then there's the nurse character, whose performance is all about what's left unsaid. This role demands an extraordinary level of restraint and internalization, and the actress rises to the challenge brilliantly. With minimal dialogue, she conveys volumes through stillness, the tilt of her head, the fleeting look of pain in her eyes. One scene where she quietly observes chaos unfolding around her, barely moving but clearly breaking inside, is one of the most emotionally wrenching moments in the entire season. The performance is so understated yet so powerful that it lingers in your mind long after the episode ends. The cocky, tech-savvy teenager adds a different flavor to the ensemble. The actor playing him nails a transformation from arrogant overconfidence to terrified vulnerability with striking realism. Early scenes show him strutting through the game like a kid who thinks he can hack his way out of anything. But as the games strip away his bravado, you witness a gradual unraveling. His body language becomes smaller, his voice shakier, and the panic grows palpable. The slow burn of his breakdown is handled with such care that you feel every ounce of fear and desperation, as if it were your own. The villainous figures are brought to life with chilling precision, particularly a high-ranking game official whose calm demeanor hides layers of menace and moral ambiguity. The actor portrays this character with a calm, controlled menace that's even more terrifying than overt aggression. His voice rarely rises above a whisper, but there's an electric charge in his presence. The way he manipulates others with a simple glance or a carefully chosen word adds an extra layer of tension whenever he appears. What's fascinating about this performance is how he humanizes the antagonist without excusing him. He becomes a complex figure, someone who's both a mastermind and a prisoner of his own system. Supporting roles, even those with limited screen time, are handled with remarkable care and skill. There's a mother who joins a game for her child's future, and her scenes pack an emotional punch far beyond her few minutes on screen. The actress's portrayal of quiet desperation, sacrifice, and heartbreak is raw and unfiltered. The moment she must make an impossible choice is portrayed with such subtlety, quivering lips, a fleeting glance away, a barely audible breath, that it shatters the viewer's heart. It's a testament to how much the show trusts its actors to convey deep emotions without exposition or melodrama. Even the mass enforcers, traditionally seen as faceless henchmen, get remarkable performances this season. One young enforcer in particular begins to question the brutal orders he's been given, and the actor communicates this growing internal struggle entirely through body language, hesitation in his movements, furtive glances, the subtle tension in his stance. It's a small but significant performance that adds to the season's rich tapestry of moral complexity and human frailty. Physicality is another standout aspect of the acting this season. These aren't performances confined to facial expressions and dialogue. They are full-bodied, exhausting, and immersive. The actors run, stumble, fall, clutch their wounds, and gasp for breath in ways that feel unbearably real. The fatigue and fear they embody are palpable, making the danger feel immediate and tangible. You don't just watch them suffer, you feel it. Ultimately, what sets the performances in Squid Game Season 3 apart is their layered authenticity. No character feels like a caricature or a plot device. Everyone is fully realized with their own fears, desires, contradictions, and complexities. The leads and supporting cast alike bring emotional depth and nuance that makes the high-stakes, often brutal narrative hit even harder. Through these performances, the show becomes more than just a thriller or survival story. It becomes a profoundly human exploration of identity, morality, and the cost of survival. Squid Game Season 3 feels like a masterclass in directorial precision, where every choice, from pacing and tone to camera angles and color palettes, is deliberately crafted to pull viewers deeper into its dark, twisted world. The director's vision shines in how the season balances raw intensity with haunting subtlety, making the tension feel palpable without ever resorting to cheap shocks. This season isn't just about survival games. It's about the psychological unraveling of characters caught in a web of desperation and power, and the director expertly uses every cinematic tool to amplify that experience. The pacing throughout the season is a brilliant dance between chaos and calm. The director knows exactly when to speed things up and when to let scenes linger, creating a rhythm that keeps viewers hooked but also breathes life into the emotional stakes. Early episodes establish a slow-burning dread, with quiet, almost meditative moments that contrast sharply with sudden bursts of violence and frantic action. This ebb and flow mimic the roller coaster of emotions the characters themselves endure: hope, fear, desperation, fleeting relief, and that makes the audience feel every heartbeat of the story. Instead of hammering the viewer with non-stop thrills, the director allows suspense to build naturally, making the climaxes hit with devastating impact. Visually, the season is stunning, with a striking use of color that reinforces the narrative's themes. The game arenas are drenched in hyper-saturated reds, greens, and yellows, colors associated with childhood innocence and playfulness that here feel twisted and sinister. This juxtaposition between vibrant colors and deadly stakes creates a surreal, nightmarish atmosphere where the familiar turns threatening. Outside the games, the palette shifts to cold, muted tones, grays, blues, and shadows that paint a bleak picture of the world's indifference and the immense power structures supporting the deadly competitions. This color coding helps the viewer intuitively understand the emotional climate of each scene even before a word is spoken. The director's command of shot composition elevates the storytelling to another level. Wide shots of the game arenas emphasize scale and isolation, making players look tiny and vulnerable within massive, geometric spaces that resemble mazes or cages. The symmetry and sharp lines contribute to a sense of order and control imposed by the game masters, underscoring the theme of human lives being manipulated as mere pieces on a board. Conversely, close-ups capture the raw emotional turmoil of characters, sweat dripping, eyes darting, lips trembling, inviting viewers into an intimate psychological space. One particularly memorable sequence uses extreme close-ups of trembling hands, rapid breathing, and flickering eyes during a game of trust, creating a suffocating sense of immediacy and tension. Narratively, the director plays with time and perspective in clever ways. Flashbacks aren't just exposition, but are woven into the present in ways that challenge the audience to piece together fragmented memories alongside the characters. These shifts are skillfully signaled through changes in lighting, color grading, and camera style, allowing the nonlinear storytelling to feel natural and immersive rather than confusing. This fractured narrative structure reflects the mental and emotional fragmentation experienced by the characters, deepening the psychological complexity of the show. Sound design and music are integral to the season's unsettling atmosphere. The score leans heavily on minimalist, almost haunting melodies that linger, amplifying tension without overwhelming the scene. Moments of silence or ambient noise, whispers, mechanical hums, footsteps, are used strategically to create unease and focus attention. During the games, the cacophony of screams, thudding impacts, and eerie sound effects are mixed in a way that feels overwhelming yet precise, immersing the viewer in the sensory overload experienced by contestants. Camera movement is another key tool in the director's arsenal. During frantic game sequences, handheld cameras shake and jostle, mirroring the chaos and panic felt by the players. The shaky, Erratic shots create a visceral experience that puts viewers right into the thick of the action, often making it hard to look away despite the brutality unfolding. In contrast, scenes dealing with the game's organizers or the characters' personal struggles employ smooth, deliberate tracking shots and static frames, conveying a cold, calculated atmosphere. This contrast not only visually distinguishes different narrative threads, but subtly communicates who holds power and who is powerless in each moment. Symbolism and visual motifs abound under the director's guidance. Recurrent shapes like circles, triangles, and squares appear everywhere, from the mass of the enforcers to the architecture of the arenas, reminding viewers of the rigid hierarchy and control mechanisms at play. The frequent use of broken mirrors, flickering lights, and claustrophobic corridors visually echo themes of fractured identity, surveillance, and entrapment. These elements enrich the narrative by inviting viewers to engage on a metaphorical level, transforming the viewing experience into a puzzle where every detail counts. The director also makes daring choices in tone and mood, blending moments of dark humor and human tenderness amidst the horror and violence. This mix keeps the story from becoming one note, adding emotional depth and complexity. The quiet, almost poetic moments of character connection and reflection create a haunting contrast to the brutality of the games, reminding viewers of what's at stake beyond just life and death. In sum, the director's vision for Squid Game Season 3 is nothing short of brilliant. By weaving together meticulous pacing, striking visual design, immersive soundscapes, and innovative narrative structure, the season becomes a gripping psychological thriller that is emotionally powerful as is thrilling. It's a showcase of how masterful directing can transform a survival game story into a deeply affecting exploration of humanity under pressure, leaving viewers not just entertained, but profoundly unsettled long after the final episode. Squid Game Season 3 cinematography goes beyond mere visuals to become a fundamental language that speaks directly to the audience's senses and emotions. Every frame is meticulously crafted, turning the camera into an active participant in the storytelling, rather than a passive observer. This season uses cinematography as a tool to deepen immersion, heighten tension, and amplify the psychological and emotional layers of the narrative, creating an experience that is both visually stunning and deeply affecting. One of the most remarkable aspects of the season's visual approach is its manipulation of space and scale. The game arenas themselves are shot with a grandeur and precision that transforms them into vast, oppressive mazes. Wide-angle lenses capture the sheer enormity of these spaces, dwarfing the players and emphasizing their vulnerability. The geometric precision of the sets, with their sharp lines, perfect symmetry, and imposing architecture, conveys a sense of artificiality and control, reminding viewers that the environment is itself a trap designed to disorient and dominate. These wide shots also evoke feelings of loneliness and isolation, as characters appear as tiny figures lost in an uncaring, mechanical world. Lighting is wielded like a storytelling weapon throughout the season, painting scenes with emotional resonance. The arenas are often bathed in stark, clinical light that feels cold and unforgiving, stripping away any hint of comfort or safety. This sterile illumination turns the vibrant colors of the games, reds, greens, yellows, into something grotesque, juxtaposing the innocence of childhood games with brutality unfolding within them. In contrast, scenes outside the arenas feature muted, desaturated lighting, casting long shadows and enveloping characters in gloom that mirrors their despair and entrapment. The interplay of light and shadow is used not only to create mood, but also to symbolize the thin line between hope and hopelessness, freedom and captivity. The season excels in its use of close-ups and micro-expressions to convey the inner turmoil of its characters. The camera lingers on subtle gestures, a trembling hand, a flicker of fear in the eye, a momentary tightening of the jaw, that communicate volumes about what the characters are feeling but cannot say. These intimate shots invite viewers to connect deeply with the emotional states of players, making their psychological struggles palpable. One memorable sequence features extreme close-ups during a high-stakes game where trust is a currency, using tight framing to amplify anxiety and claustrophobia, drawing the audience so close that the tension becomes almost suffocating. Dynamic camera movement further enhances the storytelling by reflecting the chaos or control present in each scene. The handheld, shaky cam employed during intense game sequences immerses the audience in the disorientation and panic experienced by the characters. This kinetic style contrasts sharply with the smooth, Steady tracking shots used during scenes involving the game's masterminds or moments of calculated planning, underscoring the stark power imbalance between captors and captives. The fluidity or rigidity of camera movement thus becomes a visual metaphor for who holds agency at any given moment. Color grading serves as another layer of narrative expression. The vibrant, saturated hues of the game arenas clash with the bleak, washed-out tones of the outside world, reinforcing themes of artificial spectacle versus harsh reality. This deliberate contrast not only heightens the surreal, nightmarish quality of the games, but also anchors a viewer in the emotional stakes the characters face beyond the arena. The cinematography also shines in its poetic moments. Long takes and carefully composed shots that linger on characters in solitude, emphasizing their vulnerability and introspection. One such scene involves a slow, steady tracking shot following a character through an empty corridor illuminated by a flickering light, evoking a powerful sense of isolation and impending doom. These moments allow the visual style to breathe, offering the audience space to absorb the emotional weight of the story. Visual symbolism permeates the cinematography, with recurring geometric shapes, circles, triangles, squares, integrated into set design, costume motifs, and framing. These shapes subtly reinforce the rigid hierarchy and systemic control exerted by the game's organizers, reminding viewers that the contestants are trapped not only physically, but also within an inescapable social order. Overall, Squid Game Season 3's cinematography is a masterful blend of technical artistry and storytelling savvy. It transforms every shot into a narrative device that enriches character development, intensifies suspense, and deepens thematic resonance. The season's visual language invites viewers not just to watch the story unfold, but to feel it viscerally, making the experience haunting, immersive, and unforgettable. Squid Game Season 3's editing isn't just about piecing scenes together. It's an intricate dance that orchestrates the entire storytelling experience with a masterful sense of timing, rhythm, and emotional pacing. The editors work behind the scenes like unseen puppeteers, shaping how the tension rises and falls, how moments land with gut-punch impact, and how the narrative's twists and turns keep viewers breathless and engrossed. Every cut, transition, and pause is carefully calibrated to pull you deeper into the chaotic, high-stakes world of the games and the complex psyches of the players caught within. From the very first episode, the editing establishes a pulse that drives the season forward. Action sequences burst onto the screen with rapid, almost frenetic cuts that capture the chaos and confusion the characters endure. This quick-cut style thrusts the audience into the fray, simulating the disorientation and adrenaline rush of life-or-death moments. Yet, this intensity is never sustained without respite. The editors expertly intersperse these bursts of energy with slow, contemplative scenes where the camera lingers on characters' faces, allowing the weight of their fear, regret, or determination to fully register. This contrast between rapid fire and stillness creates a rhythm that keeps viewers emotionally invested without overwhelming them, like a roller coaster that builds tension carefully before plunging into the next drop. Transitions between scenes are more than mere bridges. They're moments of thematic or emotional resonance. Rather than abrupt cuts, the editors often employ visual echoes. A zoom in on a trembling hand might dissolve into a similarly framed shot of another character's clenched fist, linking their struggles across time or space. These subtle cues create a tapestry of interconnected experiences, reinforcing the show's themes of shared trauma and desperation. Similarly, the shift between the bright, saturated hues of the game arenas and the muted, bleak tones of the outside world is handled with smooth fades and layered cuts that heighten the contrast in tone and stakes, making the transition feel meaningful rather than jarring. The editing also plays a crucial role in managing the show's complex narrative structure. Flashbacks and memories are interwoven seamlessly with present-day scenes, requiring precise timing and placement to ensure clarity without sacrificing mystery. These nonlinear segments are carefully placed to reveal character motivations, hidden alliances, or past traumas at pivotal moments, adding layers of depth and keeping the audience engaged in piecing together the full picture. The way these time shifts blend visually, through changes in lighting, color grading, or camera style, helps orient the viewer, so the nonlinear storytelling feels immersive and natural rather than confusing or fragmented. With such a large ensemble cast and multiple storylines unfolding simultaneously, the editors face the challenge of balancing screen time and maintaining narrative coherence. They meet this challenge by expertly weaving between characters and plot threads, cutting just at the right moment to build suspense and maintain emotional flow. Scenes often end on cliffhangers or visual cues that compel you to keep watching, while quieter moments are given the space they need to develop character depth and thematic resonance. This careful juggling ensures no storyline feels neglected, and emotional stakes remain high throughout. Even the smallest editorial choices amplify the viewing experience. The timing of reaction shots, the pacing of dialogue exchanges, and the insertion of moments of silence or ambient sound all contribute to the overall rhythm. For example, a sudden cut to silence or a slow zoom on a character's haunted expression can create an unsettling pause that speaks volumes, building dread without words. Conversely, rapid cuts during panic or violence put you right in the throes of chaos, your heart racing in sync with the characters. The editing's ebb and flow between relentless intensity and quiet reflection also prevent viewer fatigue, despite the show's brutal content. Action-packed scenes with life or death stakes are balanced by a moment of introspection or strategy, allowing the emotional weight to settle and deepen before plunging back into chaos. This pacing keeps the season engaging and dynamic, avoiding the pitfalls of monotony or desensitization. In sum, the editing and pacing of Squid Game Season 3 are far more than technical tasks. They're storytelling tools that shape the audience's emotional journey, controlling when to grip, when to release, and how to weave together a sprawling, tense, and emotionally charged narrative. Every cut, every pause, every transition is purposeful, pulling viewers deeper into a fractured world of games and the complex human stories at its core, making the experience gripping, immersive, and unforgettable from start to finish. Squid Game Season 3's soundtrack and score serve as an essential emotional undercurrent, quietly but profoundly shaping the entire viewing experience. Far from simply accompanying the visuals, the music and sound design work hand in hand with the narrative to create a layered, immersive atmosphere that amplifies every moment, whether it's tense, tragic, suspenseful, or surprisingly tender. This season's composers demonstrate a remarkable understanding of how to use sound not just as background, but as a storytelling device that communicates the unspoken and heightens the psychological impact. At the heart of the soundtrack lies a brilliant use of minimalism and subtlety. Instead of bombarding the viewer with constant music, the score often holds back, opting for sparse, haunting notes that hover beneath the surface like a barely contained tension. These minimalist soundscapes create a chilling ambience that can make even quiet, dialogue-driven scenes feel charged with unease. The silence between notes becomes just as important as the music itself, allowing space for the viewer to lean into the character's emotional states, be it fear, doubt, or despair, and making those feelings resonate more deeply. Recurring musical motifs are expertly woven throughout the season, acting as emotional signposts that connect various story arcs and characters. One haunting piano theme, for example, appears repeatedly in moments of loss and reflection. Its delicate, melancholic melody shifts subtly over time, from fragile and mournful to darker and fractured, mirroring the evolution of the character's psychological journeys. This thematic continuity creates a musical thread that helps the viewer navigate the complex narrative, lending a sense of cohesion to the often nonlinear storytelling. When the brutal games themselves unfold, the soundtrack shifts dramatically. The music grows more intense, layering pulsating rhythms, sharp percussive elements, and dissonant electronic sounds that mimic the cold, mechanical nature of the competition. This sonic landscape plunges viewers into the chaos and desperation of the players' fight for survival, making the adrenaline palpable. The music's relentless drive mirrors the merciless rules of the games, where there is no escape and every second counts. What makes the sound design especially compelling is how seamlessly it blends with the score. Ambient sounds, the echo of footsteps, the mechanical whir of equipment, distant screams, are intricately woven into the musical fabric, so that the line between diegetic sound and score blurs. This fusion deepens the immersive experience, making the world feel tactile and ominous. Moments of eerie silence or low hums build suspense with subtlety, proving that sound can manipulate mood even when it's barely noticeable. Silence is a powerful tool within the musical design. The editors and composers use sudden drops in music to great effect, heightening tension by creating moments where the absence of sound speaks volumes. Just before shocking revelations or violent events, music often cuts out entirely, leaving a vacuum filled only by the character's breathing or footsteps. These silences are loaded with anticipation and dread, drawing viewers in so completely that the subsequent action hits with amplified emotional force. The soundtrack also plays with contrast and irony, occasionally pairing innocent or whimsical melodies with scenes of cruelty or betrayal. This juxtaposition enhances the unsettling atmosphere by reminding viewers of the corrupted innocence at the heart of the show's premise. Childhood games turn deadly. These ironic musical touches add layers of complexity, provoking thought about the themes of lost innocence, trust, and the veneer of civility. Throughout the season, the score never overshadows the story or performances. Instead, it supports and elevates them, responding dynamically to shifts in mood and narrative tension. The composers show impeccable restraint, knowing when to hold back and when to surge forward, creating a soundtrack that breathes and flows with the pacing of the episodes. In sum, the music and sound design of Squid Game Season 3 are integral to its storytelling mastery. They sneak into subconscious, amplifying fear, hope, heartbreak, and suspense with a deft, elegant touch. The soundtrack becomes more than just accompaniment. It's a haunting presence that lingers long after the credits roll, enriching the viewing experience and deepening the emotional resonance of this unforgettable season. Squid Game Season 3 plunges deep into a complex web of themes that elevate it far beyond a mere survival thriller, transforming it into a sharp, often unsettling reflection on the human condition and the societies we live in. The show's power lies in how seamlessly these themes are woven into the narrative fabric, never feeling like heavy-handed messages, but rather emerging naturally from the characters' struggles, choices, and the brutal game itself. This thematic richness invites viewers to not only be entertained, but also think critically about real-world issues mirrored in the story's dark, high-stakes world. At the forefront is a devastating critique of systemic inequality and social injustice. The games are a grotesque allegory for a world that mercilessly pits the vulnerable against one another while those in power remain insulated and indifferent. Contestants come from a spectrum of desperate backgrounds: crippling debt, social marginalization, lost opportunities, highlighting how economic and social systems can trap people in cycles of hopelessness. The arena acts as a microcosm of society's harsh realities, where people are reduced to expendable players in a cruel game controlled by unseen elites. This metaphor underscores capitalism's dehumanizing effects, where human worth is measured by productivity or profit, and failure leads to brutal consequences. Trust and betrayal form another central thematic pillar. The season meticulously examines how bonds are forged and fractured under extreme pressure. Characters oscillate between cooperation and ruthless self-preservation, revealing the fragile nature of human relationships when survival is at stake. This exploration delves into psychology and ethics, questioning how much morality and empathy can endure in dire circumstances. The show doesn't shy away from portraying the ugly truths of human behavior, how fear and desperation can turn friends into enemies and reveal the darkest impulses lurking beneath the surface. Identity and self-discovery weave throughout the season, as many characters confront who they are beyond their roles as contestants. Stripped of societal masks, they face their regrets, fears, and desires head-on. The narrative probes philosophical questions about fate versus free will. Are the players trapped pawns in a predetermined system, or can they assert agency and redefine their destinies? This internal struggle enriches the plot with emotional depth and nuance, making the characters' journeys resonate on a profoundly human level. The show also offers abiding commentary on the spectacle of violence and the moral complications of entertainment derived from suffering. The games are broadcast as a perverse form of mass entertainment for shadowy audiences, mirroring real-world issues around voyeurism, desensitization, and ethical boundaries in media consumption. This meta-layer challenges viewers to reflect on their own role as spectators, questioning the line between engagement and complicity in watching others' pain. It adds a provocative dimension that elevates the show beyond escapism, pushing it into the realm of cultural critique. Power dynamics are dissected with surgical precision, portraying a stark divide between the players, who are exploited and dehumanized, and the organizers, who maintain control and anonymity. This dynamic mirrors societal hierarchies where elites manipulate systems for their benefit, often at the expense of the marginalized. The series exposes a cold, calculated cruelty behind such oppression, highlighting how power corrupts and sustains itself through control, fear, and devaluation of others. Despite this bleak landscape, the season thoughtfully incorporates moments of hope and humanity. Acts of compassion, sacrifice, and solidarity punctuate the narrative, reminding viewers of the resilience of empathy and connection even in the darkest times. These glimpses of kindness add complexity to the characters and prevent the story from becoming nihilistic, offering a nuanced portrait of human nature's dual capacity for cruelty and grace. What makes these themes so compelling is how organically they arise from the story and characters rather than being imposed from above. The show trusts its audience to engage with these ideas without explicit moralizing, allowing the tension, drama, and emotional stakes to carry the weight. This delicate balance between entertainment and thematic depth is a hallmark of the series' success and keeps viewers both riveted and reflective. Ultimately, Squid Game Season 3 stands as a layered, provocative exploration of societal flaws, ethical quandaries, and the complexities of human psychology under pressure. It challenges viewers not only to follow the gripping plot, but also to wrestle with uncomfortable questions about inequality, power, and morality that linger long after the final scene fades. This thematic richness is what makes the season not just compelling television, but a cultural conversation starter with lasting impact. Squid Game Season 3's visual effects and CGI work together in a masterful dance of subtlety and immersion, proving that less can truly be more when it comes to digital artistry in storytelling. Unlike many shows or films that rely heavily on flashy CGI spectacles, this season opts for a restrained approach, using visual effects strategically and sparingly to support the gritty, tense atmosphere rather than overshadow the characters and narrative. This thoughtful balance ensures the audience remains fully engaged in the visceral emotional stakes without being distracted by digital showmanship. The game arenas are the perfect showcase for this skillful use of CGI. These enormous, complex structures, which are parts of real playground and part impressive labyrinth, are enhanced digitally to extend physical sets seamlessly. CGI is employed to create impossible architectural forms, vast chambers with geometrically precise walls, sprawling corridors that twist and turn unnaturally, and ceilings that seem to stretch into infinity. These elements evoke a disorienting, claustrophobic feeling that mirrors the psychological state of players. Because these effects are blended flawlessly with real sets, lighting, and practical elements, the arenas feel tangible and immersive rather than artificial or overly polished. This integration helps ground the viewer in the world, making the stakes feel immediate and very real. Beyond architecture, digital effects add atmospheric details that deepen the sense of foreboding. Subtle touches like drifting dust motes suspended in stark lighting, faint flickering from malfunctioning overhead lamps, or slight distortions in the environment contribute layers of mood and texture that support the storytelling. These atmospheric enhancements might be easily missed consciously, but collectively they enrich the tone and emotional resonance of scenes, wrapping the viewer in a sensory experience that heightens suspense and unease. While CGI enhances the broader environment, practical effects dominate the close-up, visceral moments of violence and physical struggle. The brutal injuries, blood splatter, and bodily trauma rely on traditional makeup, prosthetics, and on-set effects that feel raw and tactile. This choice grounds the action in reality, making the danger palpable and immediate. When an active performance is combined with such realistic practical effects, the emotional and physical pain feels authentic rather than digitally fabricated, increasing empathy and investment in the characters' fates. The season also employs CGI cleverly to manipulate perspectives and subtly convey psychological states. For instance, during moments of extreme stress or confusion, digital effects might slightly warp or distort the environment, adding a surreal quality without pulling viewers out of the narrative flow. This subtle use of visual trickery reflects the character's internal turmoil and disorientation, allowing the audience to experience a fragment of their fractured mental states through the visuals themselves. These nuanced touches add psychological depth and artistic flair without ever feeling gimmicky. CGI also plays an important, though understated, role in scenes where logistical constraints make large-scale shooting impractical. Crowd scenes or expansive backgrounds are augmented with digital doubles or extended environments, all seamlessly integrated, so that the artificial elements are invisible. This smooth blend ensures continuity and scale, without sacrificing realism, preserving the show's immersive quality. During intense game sequences, visual effects are employed to amplify suspense and danger, activating traps, collapsing structures, or mechanical devices springing to life. However, these moments are carefully designed to enhance the story rather than overshadow it. The effects serve as narrative punctuation marks, emphasizing turning points and heightening tension, while keeping the focus firmly on the character's experiences. This disciplined use of CGI reinforces the season's core tension between human vulnerability and a cold, mechanical system of control. Overall, Squid Game Season 3's marriage of practical effects and CGI is a brilliant example of restraint and craftsmanship. Practical effects bring gritty realism, grounding the brutal physical stakes in tangible, relatable detail, while CGI quietly expands a world and enriches atmosphere in subtle, almost invisible ways. The two forms of effects work in harmony, creating a seamless, coherent visual world where fantasy and reality blend to support the story's emotional and psychological intensity. This thoughtful integration not only preserves the show's gritty, tense tone, but also deepens the audience's immersion, making the harrowing games feel both fantastical and terrifyingly believable. The result is a visual experience that stays with viewers long after the final scene, thanks to its seamless, purposeful design and emotional power. Squid Game Season 3 set design and locations elevate the series beyond typical survival dramas by constructing an immersive, visually arresting world that amplifies the story's psychological and thematic weight. Far more than mere backgrounds, these meticulously crafted environments shape the mood, tone, and emotional resonance of every scene, creating a striking contrast between harsh reality and surreal nightmare that deepens viewers' connection to the characters and the brutal games they endure. The game arenas stand as a crown jewel of production design, immediately grabbing attention with their imposing scale and highly stylized, almost architectural precision. These spaces aren't just physical locations. They are psychological landscapes, designed to disorient, manipulate, and control the contestants trapped within. The brutalist influences shine through in the clean lines, stark geometric shapes, and imposing walls that evoke both a playground and a prison. The use of bright, saturated colors, vivid reds, blues, and greens, clashes jarringly with the grim violence that unfolds, creating a disturbing visual paradox. Childhood innocence twisted into a mechanism of control and death. This deliberate clash heightens a surreal, nightmarish atmosphere, leaving viewers unsettled and constantly aware that these arenas are artificial constructs designed to dehumanize and trap. Every element of these sets is purposeful. The props and game materials transform familiar childhood objects, marbles, glass bridges, tug-of-war ropes, into instruments of life-or-death challenge, adding layers of meaning to otherwise innocuous items. This transformation is not only visually striking, but also thematically rich, underscoring the corruption of innocence and the cruelty of a system that exploits desperation for entertainment. The arena's design enforces a sense of claustrophobia and entrapment, with winding corridors, looming walls, and imposing architecture that amplify players' feelings of vulnerability and isolation. In stark contrast to the surreal, hyper-controlled game spaces, the show's real-world locations anchor the story in gritty reality. Scenes set in cramped apartments, chaotic offices, and worn-down urban streets offer a visceral glimpse into socioeconomic hardships and personal struggles driving contestants into the deadly games. These locations feel lived in and authentic, filled with small details that reveal the characters' backgrounds and hardships. Peeling wallpaper, flickering fluorescent lights, cluttered living spaces, all contributing to a palpable sense of desperation and bleakness. The realistic depiction of these environments heightens the emotional stakes by showing that the brutal games are not just entertainment, but a last resort for people drowning in debt and hopelessness. The transition between these two worlds, the bright, artificial arenas and the grim, muted real-life settings, is handled with visual and thematic finesse. Lighting and color palettes play a crucial role. Arenas glow with unnatural, saturated hues and harsh artificial light, enhancing the surrealism and psychological manipulation, while outside scenes are drenched in muted, desaturated tones that emphasize hardship and despair. This deliberate visual dichotomy reinforces the narrative tension, highlighting the stark gulf between the characters' harsh realities and the twisted fantasy of the games, and amplifying the themes of power, control, and exploitation. Subtle details in the sets enrich the storytelling further. The guards' uniforms and masks, with their uniformity and anonymity, symbolize the faceless enforcers of a dehumanizing system. Personal spaces belonging to contestants are cluttered and intimate, reflecting their individual stories and adding depth to their characters. Even background elements, signage, furniture, technology, are carefully chosen to enhance cultural context and underscore the cold bureaucracy underpinning the games. The set design also aids storytelling through spatial dynamics and camera work. The vastness and labyrinthine nature of the arenas create opportunities for tension and suspense, with characters frequently dwarfed by their surroundings, emphasizing their powerlessness. The claustrophobic framing inside corridors or game rooms contrasts with the openness of the players' real-world environments, visually narrating their shifting states of mind and fortune. In sum, Squid Game Season 3's production design masterfully constructs a world that is simultaneously hyperreal and deeply symbolic. The juxtaposition of surreal, brutalist game arenas with authentic, grim real-life locations enriches the narrative's emotional impact and thematic complexity. Every detail, from color choices to architectural forms to props, works cohesively to immerse the viewer in a universe where innocence is weaponized, desperation exploited, and survival is a harrowing, visceral experience. This layered, thoughtful design makes the series not just a visual spectacle, but a profound exploration of human nature and societal fracture. Squid Game Season 3's dialogue and script stand as a cornerstone of the series' compelling storytelling, demonstrating a remarkable blend of authenticity, emotional nuance, and thematic depth that elevates the entire narrative. The writing transcends mere exposition or plot mechanics, instead weaving a rich verbal tapestry that captures the complexity of human behavior under extreme pressure, the frailty of trust, and the desperate search for meaning in chaos. The script's ability to balance sharp wit, raw vulnerability, and suspenseful tension ensures the series remains both gripping and deeply human throughout its run. One of the most impressive aspects of the dialogue is its naturalistic flow. The characters speak in ways that feel true to their backgrounds, personalities, and emotional states. Whether it's terse, clipped exchanges charged with suspicion, or open, heartfelt confessions brimming with regret and hope, the script maintains a realistic tone that grounds the outlandish scenario in genuine human experience. The dialogue never feels like an artificial device to deliver information, but rather an organic expression of who the characters are and what they're going through. This authenticity invites viewers to empathize deeply with each contestant, seeing them not as mere players in a game, but as complex individuals facing impossible choices. Humor is skillfully interspersed throughout the script, providing necessary emotional relief and highlighting the resilience of the human spirit. The show's dark humor emerges naturally from character interactions and situational irony, rather than forced jokes. These moments, whether a dry quip in the midst of tension or a sardonic observation about the game's cruelty, offer glimpses of personality and humanity that enrich the characters and make them more relatable. This careful tonal balance between levity and gravity ensures the series remains engaging without becoming oppressively bleak. Memorable, often poignant lines punctuate the series, capturing core themes and emotional stakes of the story. Some quotes crystallize the brutal realities of the games, highlighting desperation, betrayal, or fragility of hope, while others provide moments of philosophical reflection or defiant courage. Because these lines arise naturally from the characters' journeys, they resonate deeply and linger in the viewer's mind, becoming emblematic of the show's broader messages. This kind of writing transforms simple dialogue into thematic anchor points, enriching the narrative texture. The script also excels in subtlety and subtext. Information about the game's rules, alliances, and backstory is often revealed through indirect conversation, ambiguous remarks, or loaded silences. This approach engages the audience in active interpretation, encouraging them to read between the lines and piece together mysteries alongside the characters. The space left between spoken word becomes a fertile ground for tension, suspicion, and emotional complexity, making the dialogue multi-layered and dynamic. The restraint shown here keeps the story immersive and avoids over-explaining, a testament to confident and skillful writing. Cultural specificity is another important strength of the script. The dialogue reflects the characters' diverse social and economic backgrounds through authentic language, slang, and mannerisms, adding realism and texture to the world building. These details enrich the characters' identities and make their struggles feel more immediate and grounded. At the same time, the themes explored through the dialogue, such as inequality, trust, survival, and sacrifice, carry universal resonance, allowing the series to connect with a global audience while maintaining cultural authenticity. In moments of high drama, the dialogue delivers emotional impact without resorting to melodrama. Characters confront painful truths, betrayals, and moral dilemmas with lines that are raw, honest, and often haunting. These intense exchanges provide crucial turning points in the narrative, deepening character arcs and heightening suspense. The script balances these with quieter, introspective moments where characters reflect on their choices and fears, creating a rhythm that mirrors the ebb and flow of real emotional experience. Furthermore, the interplay between dialogue and performance is essential. The script leaves room for actors to imbue their lines with nuance, hesitation, or subtle emotion, allowing the spoken words to carry layers of meaning beyond their literal sense. This synergy between writing and acting makes conversations feel alive and immediate, further drawing viewers into the psychological and emotional world of the series. Ultimately, Squid Game Season 3's dialogue and script are a showcase of nuanced storytelling that blends realism, emotional depth, and thematic richness. Every line serves a purpose, whether to reveal character, build tension, inject humor, or underscore the show's broader messages. This careful, layered writing craft and narrative voice that is at once gripping, thought-provoking, and profoundly human, transforming the series from a high-stakes thriller into a compelling exploration of morality, desperation, and survival. Squid Game Season 3 plunges deep into the survival thriller genre, but it does so with remarkable sophistication and inventiveness that elevates it well beyond the typical formula. At its surface, the show embraces many of the genre's classic elements. High-stakes competition where lives hang in the balance, pulse-pounding tension, shifting alliances, brutal betrayals, and the constant looming threat of death. Yet, rather than simply rehashing these tropes, the season injects fresh perspective through rich character development, layered storytelling, and a nuanced exploration of human psychology and societal critique that make it stand out in a crowded field. From the outset, the premise echoes familiar survival thriller motifs. Contestants thrust into a deadly game where every choice can mean life or death. But the show quickly distinguishes itself by embedding this premise within a complex web of social commentary. The games aren't just about physical survival. They symbolize systemic inequalities, economic desperation, and the human cost of ruthless societal structures. This thematic depth adds emotional gravity and intellectual heft, turning what might be a straightforward contest into a morally and philosophically charged battleground. Characterization is a key area where Squid Game Season 3 reinvents genre conventions. Instead of clear-cut heroes and villains, the characters occupy morally ambiguous spaces. Each contestant's decisions are shaped by a mix of desperation, hope, self-interest, and compassion, blurring the lines between good and evil. This complexity makes alliances unpredictable and conflicts emotionally resonant, inviting viewers to empathize with flawed, multifaceted individuals rather than cardboard archetypes. The survival thriller's typical binary morality is replaced with nuanced portrayals that probe the complexities of trust, loyalty, and survival instinct under extreme duress. Suspense is masterfully layered throughout the season. The tension arises not only from physical danger, but also from psychological warfare, manipulation, and shifting power dynamics. The narrative cleverly doles out information, using cliffhangers, misdirection, and gradual revelations to keep viewers on edge. This keeps the stakes high and the pace gripping without relying solely on action set pieces. The show's ability to sustain suspense through character-driven conflict and moral dilemmas deepens engagement and emotional investment. Tonally, the season balances darkness with moments of dark humor and ironic levity. These flashes of wit emerge naturally from character interactions or the absurdity inherent in the games, providing brief emotional reprieves that also humanize the players. This tonal interplay prevents the narrative from becoming relentlessly grim, instead offering a richer, more textured viewing experience that reflects the complexity of real human emotion even in dire circumstances. Action sequences combine physicality with psychological tension. The challenges are cleverly designed to test not only strength or skill, but also mental acuity, strategy, and emotional resilience. Violence is impactful and meaningful, never gratuitous, serving the story's moral and emotional stakes rather than spectacle alone. This thoughtful choreography of action scenes ensures they reinforce character development and thematic concerns. Visually, The season leverages color schemes, set design, and framing to underscore the genre's themes of entrapment and existential threat. The sterile, oppressive game environments contrast starkly with the bleak, impoverished real world of the characters, visually echoing their trapped and desperate conditions. Cinematography supports the tension and isolation central to survival thrillers, using claustrophobic shots and stark lighting to enhance mood and psychological impact. Ultimately, Squid Game Season 3 respects the survival thriller genre's conventions, suspense, danger, moral complexity, while pushing its boundaries through layered storytelling, thematic richness, and deep character work. It's a smart, emotionally resonant, and thrilling series that both honors and reinvents its genre, keeping audiences engaged and reflective long after the credits roll. Squid Game Season 3 doesn't just present itself as a gripping survival thriller. It unfolds as a multifaceted social and cultural critique, brilliantly layered and woven seamlessly into the narrative, so that viewers are drawn into a larger conversation about contemporary society without ever feeling lectured or overwhelmed. The show uses its dystopian premise, a brutal, televised game where desperate individuals risk their lives, as a magnifying glass to examine systemic inequality, the dehumanizing effects of capitalism, social alienation, and the moral compromises people make under pressure. These themes are not abstract or superficial. They're embedded deeply in the characters' stories, the structure and rules of the games, and the cold, detached world inhabited by the organizers, creating a rich tapestry of commentary that challenges audiences to reflect on real-world issues. Economic desperation forms a foundation of this commentary, grounding the series in a painfully authentic reality. The contestants are not merely faceless players. They represent a cross-section of society's most vulnerable. People crushed by crippling debt, unemployment, societal marginalization, or personal tragedy. This depiction of financial hardship as a gateway into a deadly game serves as a stark metaphor for how modern economic systems entrap individuals in cycles of poverty and exploitation. The series skillfully avoids broad generalizations by telling deeply personal stories that highlight the psychological and emotional toll of economic despair. Each character's backstory reveals how systemic pressures push people toward extreme measures, making their participation in the games a tragic yet understandable choice. This humanization of socioeconomic issues adds layers of emotional weight and urgency, encouraging viewers to see beyond headlines and statistics to the lived realities of those struggling beneath society's surface. At the same time, the games themselves function as a chilling allegory for capitalism's ruthless mechanisms. Players are commodified, pitted against one another for the amusement and profit of an unseen, untouchable elite. This dynamic exposes the way systems can dehumanize and objectify individuals, reducing them to expendable resources or mere entertainment. The anonymity of the game's organizers and the cold precision of the rules symbolize the faceless, impersonal nature of global capitalism, an invisible force that shapes lives with little regard for individual suffering. The series' visual and narrative emphasis on this power imbalance creates a haunting parallel to real-world inequalities, prompting viewers to question who benefits and who pays the price in such a system. The stark, sterile aesthetics of the arenas and the detached, bureaucratic man of the guards reinforce this critique, painting a world where empathy is systematically erased. Social alienation and fractured human connections are further explored through the players' shifting alliances and betrayals. The show delves deeply into how extreme circumstances test the limits of trust, solidarity, and morality. Characters oscillate between cooperation and ruthless self-interest, reflecting broader cultural anxieties about community and survival in an increasingly competitive and fragmented world. These interpersonal dramas are portrayed with nuance and empathy, avoiding simplistic judgments, and instead presenting the messy realities of human behavior under stress. This exploration invites audiences to ponder how much of one's humanity can endure in the face of existential threat, and whether compassion can survive when the system pits people against each other. The show also offers a biting meta-commentary on the spectacle of violence and the ethics of entertainment in contemporary culture. The gruesome games, broadcast for voyeuristic enjoyment, mirror the real world's obsession with reality TV, sensationalist media, and online culture, which often commodify pain and conflict for ratings and clicks. This self-reflexive layer implicates the viewer, encouraging uncomfortable reflection on our complicity as consumers of such content. The series challenges audiences to question the boundaries of empathy and voyeurism, asking how society can become desensitized to suffering when it is packaged as entertainment. This dimension enriches a narrative, transforming it into a critique of not only systemic injustice, but also cultural consumption patterns. Importantly, Squid Game Season 3 integrates its social and cultural commentary organically into the storytelling, trusting its audience to engage critically without heavy-handed exposition. The themes emerge naturally through character choices, plot developments, and visual symbolism rather than didactic dialogue or overt moralizing. This subtlety enhances the show's emotional impact, as viewers experience the implications of inequality and exploitation to the characters' pain and struggles rather than abstract theory. The culturally specific details, from language and social norms to economic realities, ground the series in Korean society while addressing universal concerns, giving it both authenticity and broad resonance. Overall, Squid Game Season 3's social and cultural critique is a powerful undercurrent that gives the series profound depth and relevance. It transforms a thrilling survival story into a compelling examination of contemporary life's harsh realities, questioning the structures that govern human existence and the costs borne by those at society's margins. By blending entertainment with incisive commentary, the show sparks conversation and reflection, ensuring it remains a culturally significant and thought-provoking work long after the final episode concludes. Squid Game Season 3's emotional impact and audience reaction are a remarkable blend of raw intensity, profound empathy, and lingering resonance that elevate the viewing experience far beyond mere entertainment. From the very beginning, the series crafts an emotional landscape that is as complex and nuanced as its intricate plot, drawing viewers into the psychological and moral turmoil faced by its characters. This emotional immersion is no accident. It's the result of careful storytelling, layered character development, and a keen understanding of human vulnerability and resilience under extreme pressure. The emotional journey begins with character introductions that immediately evoke empathy. Despite the high concept, often surreal premise, the contestants are portrayed with rich backstories, relatable struggles, and deeply human flaws. Viewers don't just see faceless players in a deadly game. They see people grappling with despair, hope, guilt, and love. This connection creates an emotional anchor that makes the stakes feel personal. Every triumph, setback, or loss carries weight because the audience understands who these characters are and what they stand to lose. The writers and actors collaborate seamlessly to ensure that even in moments of intense action or suspense, the emotional truth of the characters remains front and center. Throughout the season, the show expertly balances moments of tension with emotional release, creating a roller coaster effect that keeps viewers emotionally invested. Dark humor, for example, punctuates bleak scenarios, offering a glimpse of humanity and levity amid despair. These lighter moments are carefully placed to deepen character development and provide audiences with brief respites from the unrelenting tension, making the darker scenes feel even more impactful by contrast. Conversely, scenes of heartbreak, sacrifice, and betrayal are handled with raw honesty, avoiding melodrama, and instead offering a sincere exploration of the pain and complexity of human relationships under duress. The show's ability to elicit a broad spectrum of emotions, fear, hope, anger, sadness, joy, creates a deeply immersive experience that resonates long after watching. Audiences find themselves emotionally exhausted but compelled to continue, driven by a desire to see how the characters' arcs unfold and whether redemption or tragedy awaits. This emotional investment leads to a sense of catharsis that is both satisfying and thought-provoking, as viewers grapple with the moral questions raised by the narrative. Audience reactions extend beyond the screen as well. The series has inspired passionate discussions in online communities, social media platforms, and everyday conversations, where fans dissect plot twists, analyze character motivations, and debate ethical dilemmas presented in the show. This collective engagement enhances the emotional impact by fostering a sense of shared experience and connection among viewers worldwide. The emotional highs and lows become communal moments, intensifying the overall resonance of the story. Moreover, the series invites introspection by posing challenging questions about human nature, survival instincts, and societal values. Viewers are prompted to consider what they might do in similar circumstances, leading to self-reflection and sometimes discomfort. This intellectual engagement adds depth to the emotional response, transforming passive consumption into active contemplation. Finally, the enduring emotional impact is a testament to the show's craftsmanship. The writing, direction, performances, and production design work in harmony to create scenes that linger in the memory, whether the haunting glance, a silent moment of grief, or a triumphant smile. These carefully constructed emotional beats give the series a lasting power, making it not just a thrilling spectacle but profound exploration of the human condition. In sum, Squid Game Season 3's emotional impact and audience reaction are a testament to its masterful storytelling and deep understanding of what moves people. It captures the complexities of fear, hope, desperation, and resilience, weaving them into a compelling narrative that captivates hearts and minds alike, ensuring the show remains a cultural touchstone well beyond its initial broadcast. Squid Game Season 3 boldly stakes its claim in a genre teeming with survival thrillers, dystopian narratives, and social allegories, yet it manages to carve out a distinct identity that sets it apart in surprisingly fresh ways. When you start placing alongside well-known titles like Battle Royale, The Hunger Games, or even the darker, more philosophical episodes of Black Mirror, the differences and innovations become especially apparent. It takes some familiar building blocks, but reshapes them into a narrative that feels both grounded and inventive, emotionally charged yet sharply critical of society. Take Battle Royale, for example, a film and series often credited as a pioneer in the last-person-standing death game format. While Battle Royale revels in its raw brutality and shock value, often focusing on teenage characters forced into violent confrontations, Squid Game Season 3 shifts the lens toward adults weighed down by real-world economic and social pressures. The stakes in Squid Game aren't just survival. They're survival intertwined with crushing debt, hopelessness, and societal marginalization. This context gives Squid Game a more urgent and relatable emotional core, as viewers see not just contestants fighting for life, but people fighting for dignity and escape from systemic oppression. The grim reality behind the game's grounds a fantastical premise in something that it's closer to home. Similarly, the Hunger Games trilogy offers an epic, almost mythic tale of rebellion and class struggle wrapped in a dystopian spectacle. While it shares thematic concerns with Squid Game, economic inequality, power imbalances, and survival, the latter opts for a more intimate and psychologically nuanced approach. Squid Game Season 3 doesn't focus on grand revolutions or sweeping battles, but instead zooms in on the small, personal moments of trust, betrayal, and moral compromise among its contestants. This tighter scope allows for richer character exploration and emotional complexity that some larger-scale dystopias may sacrifice for spectacle. Compared to Black Mirror's often cold, speculative critiques of technology and society, Squid Game is more visceral and immediate, both visually and emotionally. Where Black Mirror tends to serve as a detached cautionary tale, Squid Game immerses viewers in the messiness of human desperation and ethical ambiguity. The games themselves, with their vibrant colors and grotesque contrast between childlike settings and brutal violence, create a surreal atmosphere that's uniquely unsettling. This aesthetic choice distinguishes it from many dark, bleak dystopias and gives it a signature style that lingers in the mind. Within its own franchise, Season 3 demonstrates clear evolution. It retains the tension and inventive game design that made the original so captivating, but layers in deeper social critique and more nuanced character development. The new season isn't content to rehash old formulas. It expands the world, explores fresh psychological and ethical dilemmas, and presents surprises that keep even longtime fans guessing. The pacing is more confident, the narrative more intricate, and the emotional beats more resonant, signaling a maturation of the creative vision behind the series. Looking at the director's body of work, Season 3 feels like a bold step forward. The signature style, merging striking visuals with intense psychological drama, is intact but now enriched with greater narrative ambition and sharper social insight. There is a palpable sense of confidence in storytelling, with bolder thematic explorations and more dynamic production design. The director's growth is evident in how seamlessly the season balances spectacle with substance, tension with empathy, and criticism with entertainment. When compared to Hollywood survival thrillers and big-budget blockbusters, Squid Game Season 3's strength lies in its refusal to simplify morality or character motivations. Many mainstream survival films tend to frame conflicts in clear-cut terms of good versus evil, hero versus villain, making choices predictable and outcomes more straightforward. Squid Game embraces moral complexity and ambiguity, showing how desperation can push even the most principled individuals to compromise their values. This layered portrayal encourages viewers to engage critically, ask difficult questions, and reconsider easy judgments, enriching the viewing experience. Overall, Squid Game Season 3 sits comfortably within the pantheon of great survival dramas, while distinctly elevating itself through its unique cultural voice, emotional depth, and sophisticated social commentary. It respects and reinterprets genre conventions, offering familiar thrills wrapped in provocative themes and unforgettable characters. Whether you come for the pulse-pounding action, the psychological drama, or the societal critique, Season 3 delivers a rich, multi-layered experience that continues to redefine what a survival thriller can be. Squid Game Season 3 is a treasure trove of symbolism and metaphors that transform its gripping survival narrative into a rich, layered commentary on human nature, society, and power dynamics. These elements are woven seamlessly throughout the story, visuals, and character arcs, encouraging viewers to look beyond the surface and uncover deeper meanings that enhance both the emotional impact and thematic resonance of the series. Starting with the games themselves, they function as potent metaphors for real-world systems of control and exploitation. Each contest, while presented as a seemingly simple challenge, carries symbolic weight tied to social structures and the human condition. The playful, childlike aesthetics of the game arenas, bright colors, geometric shapes, and innocent playground motifs, juxtaposed starkly with the brutal violence and high stakes, embodying the idea that beneath society's polished exterior lies systemic cruelty and harsh competition. This contrast serves as a critique of how societal institutions often mask exploitation behind a facade of order and civility, reminding viewers that what appears harmless or entertaining on the surface can conceal deep suffering and injustice. The masks and costumes worn by the game's enforcers are another rich source of symbolism. Their uniform masks erase individual identity, representing faceless bureaucracies and impersonal machinery of power that operates without empathy or accountability. This anonymity underscores the dehumanizing nature of such systems, which view individuals as mere numbers or tools rather than human beings. Meanwhile, the distinctiveness of the players' appearances, including their colorful tracksuits and personal traits, highlights their humanity and individuality, tragically suppressed within the rigid structure of the games. The tension between the uniform anonymity of the guards and the unique identities of the players visually manifests the struggle between control and freedom, conformity and resistance. Color symbolism plays a significant role in conveying emotional and thematic undertones throughout the season. The dominant reds of the guards' uniforms and the game environments evoke danger, blood, authority, and violence, signaling the ever-present threat posed by the controlling powers. In contrast, the green tracksuits worn by the players simultaneously suggest conformity, survival, and the monotonous uniformity imposed upon them. This color coding creates an immediate visual shorthand for the social hierarchies and emotional landscapes, guiding viewers' perceptions and reinforcing the underlying power dynamics. The deliberate use of contrasting vibrant colors against grim narratives amplifies the surreal, unsettling atmosphere, making the violence and tension more jarring. The geometric shapes on the guards' masks, the circle, triangle, and square, serve as subtle metaphors for hierarchy and societal roles. These shapes denote different ranks and functions within the oppressive system, symbolizing how rigid, mechanical structures enforce order by categorizing and limiting individuals. The childlike simplicity of these shapes contrasts ironically with the brutal control they represent, reinforcing themes of lost innocence and the perversion of authority. The repetition of these shapes throughout the series acts as a visual motif, reminding viewers of the cold, systematic nature of the games and the society they reflect. Water imagery and mirrors appear throughout the season as metaphors for reflection, transformation, and identity fluidity. Scenes featuring pools, rain, or reflective surfaces often coincide with pivotal moments of introspection or change of characters, symbolizing their internal struggles and evolving self-understanding. This recurring motif invites viewers to consider how external forces and internal conflicts shape identity, and how characters wrestle with their sense of self amid chaos and moral compromise. The reduction of individuals to numbers, seen in player IDs and game scoring, acts as a metaphor for dehumanization and loss of personal identity. This numerical labeling strips characters of their histories and personalities, highlighting themes of objectification and systemic erasure within oppressive structures. Moments when characters reclaim their names or reject their assigned numbers become powerful acts of defiance, symbolizing resistance to dehumanization and a reclaiming of agency and dignity. Spatial metaphors also abound, with the design of game environments often resembling mazes, labyrinths, or traps. These physical spaces symbolize the psychological and existential predicaments faced by the characters, who are not only fighting for survival but also navigating complex emotional and moral landscapes. The confining, disorienting nature of these spaces mirrors feelings of entrapment, confusion, and helplessness, deepening the narrative by making the environment a reflection of internal states. Linguistic symbolism and recurring phrases in dialogue further enrich the narrative's metaphorical fabric. Expressions about winning, trust, sacrifice, and betrayal carry layered meanings that extend beyond immediate plot points to touch on universal questions about morality, human nature, and societal values. The interplay of literal and figurative language invites viewers to engage actively with the themes and consider the philosophical implications of the characters' choices and circumstances. Together, these symbols and metaphors create a dense, immersive storytelling experience where every visual detail, character interaction, and narrative turn contributes to a larger commentary on power, identity, and survival. They transform Squid Game Season 3 from a simple thriller into a complex, thought-provoking work that challenges viewers to think critically about the systems governing human life and the resilience of the human spirit. This layering makes repeated viewings rewarding, as new meanings and connections emerge with closer attention, underscoring the show's artistry and depth. Squid Game Season 3 boldly steps into the vast, dark world laid out by its predecessors and takes the story to new heights, deepening the mystery, expanding the mythology, and raising the emotional and thematic stakes in ways that keep the franchise fresh and compelling. Instead of simply rehashing the survival game formula that made the first 2 seasons a global sensation, Season 3 embraces a more ambitious narrative scope. It dives deeper into the hidden mechanisms of the games, explores the complex power structures behind the scenes, and illuminates the moral and psychological consequences for characters both old and new. The result is a season that feels like a natural evolution, one that respects the series' roots but isn't afraid to chart bold new territory. From a franchise perspective, Season 3 stands out by weaving a richer tapestry of backstory and context around the deadly contests. The games are no longer just a horrifying spectacle, but part of a sprawling system of control with intricate rules, secret agendas, and shadowy elite manipulating events from afar. This additional world-building adds layers of intrigue and suspense, inviting viewers to piece together the larger puzzle behind the survival competition. It transforms the show from a simple thriller into a multi-dimensional saga with political, philosophical, and social dimensions, expanding its appeal and resonance. The characters returning to the series carry the emotional baggage and grow from previous seasons, and their continued journeys gain new depth and nuance. Their personal stakes are elevated. Not only are they fighting for their lives, but they're also wrestling with their past choices, ethical dilemmas, and the consequences of surviving such a brutal environment. Meanwhile, fresh faces introduce new dynamics, conflicts, and perspectives that challenge both the characters and the audience. This blend of continuity and novelty keeps the narrative dynamic and unpredictable, rewarding loyal fans while remaining accessible to newcomers. Visually and technically, the franchise maintains its signature aesthetic of stark contrasts. The bright, almost surreal game arena is set against brutal violence and bleak real-world settings. Season 3 ups the ante with more elaborate game designs and production values, reflecting the series' growing ambition and creative confidence. The sets, costumes, and cinematography continue to be key storytelling tools, reinforcing themes of innocence lost, systemic oppression, and the grotesque spectacle of human desperation. Culturally, Squid Game Season 3 deepens a franchise's engagement with pressing social issues such as economic inequality, exploitation, and the human cost of capitalist systems. It situates its dystopian narrative firmly within contemporary Korean social realities, while simultaneously addressing universal anxieties about survival, morality, and power. This dual lens of local specificity and global relevance has been a hallmark of the series and is sharpened in the 3rd installment, allowing it to resonate widely while maintaining authenticity. Unlike many long-running franchises that risk stagnation or formulaic repetition, Squid Game Season 3 takes a challenge expanding its universe seriously, offering fresh twists, more complex character arcs, and a broader thematic reach. It encourages viewers to rethink what they thought they knew about the games and the world they inhabit, opening new questions about identity, justice, and resistance. This makes Season 3 not just a continuation, but a pivotal chapter that deepens the series' narrative ambitions and secures its place as a cultural phenomenon with lasting impact. In short, Season 3 doesn't simply continue the story. It enriches it, building on a foundation laid by its predecessors while pushing the boundaries of the franchise's storytelling, visual style, and social commentary. It's a bold, engaging evolution that keeps audiences hooked and eager to see what comes next. Squid Game Season 3 is a prime example of how television series today blur the lines between traditional cinema and streaming entertainment, particularly when it comes to budget and production scale. The financial investment poured into this season reflects a deep commitment to quality and ambition that rivals many high-profile Hollywood films. The production spared no expense, from the intricate and imaginative set designs to the elaborate costumes and cutting-edge special effects that bring the twisted world of the Squid Game universe to vivid life. Every visual element is carefully crafted to immerse viewers fully, demonstrating that the creators view this series as a premium, cinematic experience rather than just episodic TV. When comparing the budget to production quality, it's clear that the resources have been used with precision and creativity. The detailed construction of the game arenas, each with its own distinct look and feel, pushes the boundaries of set design on television, creating spaces that feel at once surreal and menacing. Practical effects are combined with subtle digital enhancements to make every game pulse with tension and danger, amplifying the emotional stakes for both characters and audiences. Cinematography is meticulously planned, using lighting, color, and camera movement to heighten the psychological intensity and thematic resonance of scenes. Music and sound design further elevate the experience, blending haunting scores with ambient noises to immerse viewers in the haunting atmosphere. This synergy between budget and artistic vision results in a show that looks and feels like a major motion picture, helping it stand out in a crowded market where production values can make or break audience engagement. On the financial front, while streaming platforms don't release exact revenue or viewership numbers in the same way theatrical films report box office earnings, the impact of Squid Game Season 3 is unmistakable. The original series became a global sensation through viral popularity and critical acclaim, setting high expectations for this follow-up. Season 3 capitalizes on that momentum, drawing massive global audiences across diverse demographics and geographies. This influx of viewers translates into significant subscriber retention and acquisition for the streaming service, effectively turning the season into a major revenue generator. The show's marketing campaign played a pivotal role in building excitement and anticipation, using trailers, teasers, and strategic promotional events to maintain a constant buzz. This not only sustained interest during the release window, but also extended the show's cultural relevance over time. The audience reaction and critical reception further contributed to the season's financial success. Positive reviews, social media discussions, fan theories, and community engagement created a virtuous cycle where word-of-mouth fueled further viewership, driving the season's visibility and influence beyond traditional advertising. The series became a cultural phenomenon that transcended entertainment, sparking conversations about social inequality, human nature, and morality worldwide. This broad cultural impact magnified the season's value for platform, demonstrating how well-funded, high-quality content can create lasting brand loyalty and global appeal. Unlike traditional films that rely heavily on box office ticket sales, streaming hits like Squid Game measure success through a mix of subscriber metrics, engagement rates, and cultural footprint. The financial triumph of Season 3 illustrates how investing heavily in production and marketing for streaming originals is not only viable, but highly profitable in the digital age. It challenges old models of entertainment finance and distribution, showing that with the right creative vision and strategic execution, a series can achieve blockbuster status without the conventional theatrical route. In sum, the sizable budget and exquisite production values of Squid Game Season 3 are foundational to its worldwide acclaim and financial success. They enable a level of storytelling and immersion that captivates viewers on a cinematic scale, while the global audience response and savvy marketing translate into substantial returns for creators and streaming platform. This season exemplifies a new era of premium streaming content where quality, ambition, and cultural resonance combine to redefine what it means to be a blockbuster in today's entertainment landscape. Squid Game Season 3's availability on streaming platforms perfectly matches the way modern audiences consume television today, making it incredibly easy and convenient for viewers around the globe to dive into this gripping saga. Unlike traditional theatrical releases that require scheduling, traveling, or buying tickets, streaming brings the entire season right to your fingertips, accessible anytime, anywhere, and on practically any internet-connected device. This ease of access removes barriers and invites a diverse, worldwide audience to experience the thrills, tension, and emotional complexity of the show at their own pace. Whether you're a dedicated fan eagerly awaiting the next episode or a newcomer curious to see what the buzz is about, streaming offers a flexibility to jump in instantly without missing a beat. For viewers who want to soak in every detail and nuance, watching Squid Game Season 3 on a big screen television with a high-quality sound system can elevate the experience to cinematic heights. The series is renowned for its vivid, striking visuals, from meticulously designed game sets and colorful costumes to the clever use of lighting and camera angles that heighten suspense and emotion. When viewed on a large 4K or HD TV, these elements leap off the screen, making the brutal games and tense confrontations feel more immediate and immersive. Combined with surround sound or a quality speaker setup, the show's haunting musical score and intricate sound design create an atmosphere that fully envelopes the viewer. This sensory richness pulls you deeper into the story, intensifying every moment of suspense, triumph, and heartbreak. If a home theater setup isn't available, the streaming platform's mobile apps ensure that the viewing experience remains excellent even on smaller devices like smartphones or tablets. These apps are optimized for a range of screen sizes and internet speeds, maintaining impressive picture and sound quality that allow you to enjoy the show on the go, whether commuting, traveling, or relaxing somewhere away from home. This portability means Squid Game Season 3 fits seamlessly into modern lifestyles, where entertainment is often consumed during breaks or while multitasking. Moreover, the platform usually offers subtitles and multiple language options, making it accessible to a truly global audience and allowing viewers worldwide to connect with the show's universal themes of survival, morality, and social inequality. Unlike a theatrical release that limits viewing to specific times and venues, the streaming model offers unmatched control over how you engage with the series. You can binge-watch episodes back-to-back to keep the adrenaline rushing or pace yourself to savor the complex character developments and moral dilemmas. The ability to pause, rewind, and rewatch scenes adds another layer of engagement, especially for a show packed with intricate details and subtle clues. This interactivity enhances comprehension and appreciation, inviting viewers to think critically and discuss theories with fellow fans, which fuels the vibrant online community surrounding the series. Although digital rental or purchase options might not be the primary mode for this kind of high-profile streaming exclusive, the subscription model means you gain ongoing access to the season as long as you maintain your membership. This makes it easy to revisit favorite episodes, catch details you missed the first time, or simply relive the suspense whenever you like, adding significant replay value. This accessibility contrasts sharply with theatrical films, where once the run ends, returning to the content can be more complicated or costly. In sum, Squid Game Season 3's home on a major streaming platform perfectly matches its ambitious scope and global appeal. The combination of instant accessibility, device flexibility, and high production quality means audiences worldwide can experience the season's intense drama and social commentary in the best possible way. Whether you choose to immerse yourself in a marathon binge or savor the episodes slowly, alone or with friends, the streaming release empowers you to engage deeply with the series on your own terms, making it a truly modern entertainment experience tailored for today's viewers.